I'm back for another reading of The Beginner's Guide to Constructing the Universe. I know it's been a while. I think it's been since around Easter. And and now we are in another season. We have moved into the summer season, and I'm back to read the next chapter, which is on chapter 3, Triad. So, for those of you that have found value in following, reading along with me, thank you so much. Continue to leave your comments and your insights. I know I'm coming across viewers that have read the book and they really loved it. I appreciate you for letting me know that in the comments. I am committed to finishing the book, and I will finish it. um, I am in a space where I'm embracing every interest that I have in its organic nature and how it shows up for me. And so I have many interests that all flow at the same time. Also, I'm a parent. I'm a teacher. Um, so I recently am out on summer break, and so I have a lot more time on my hands than I did while the school year was in, and when I read the first two chapters along with the introduction. So we're going to be picking up with chapter 3. And of course, this chapter is all about the number 3 and what they refer to, or the author refers to, as triad. So I'm excited to learn about the number 3 from our author's perspective, because I mean, there has been so many juicy details, so many insights that really open your mind up to numbers and numbers as symbols and numbers as representations. And so I feel like, especially all the talk about angel numbers and things like that, and how sometimes we see repeating numbers, or maybe not even repeating numbers. It could just be one number in specific that we see or that we're drawn to. I feel like opening up our minds and our thinking to on this level will help us begin to interpret and communicate with the universe at large, or nature at large around us, and be able to see more deeply into all of the things that are happening to us. See, like right now in this moment, I just looked over at the TV and I see 90 for 90 degrees and also 9:02. So as the time, and so it's interesting that both 9 and 0 are repeating themselves. And so if you notice, that'll happen. Also, another thing I noticed that is happening in my world is that associations with phone numbers and people. I'm starting to see similarities in the same groupings of numbers, um, of people coming into my life, and similarities in who they are, and that being reflected in their phone numbers. And then that reflection holding from person to person. So I would just encourage you to like be very open-minded and begin to sort of follow the little clues and the traces and the synchronicities, or the clues that you're getting when you start to notice things about numbers. All right, so let's get into it without any further ado. Let's get into triad. So chapter 3, triad, three-part harmony. The triad is the form of the completion of all things. Birth, and then we have the image here, which is the birth of the triangle. We express the principle of threeness by writing the numeral 3 with the beginning, middle, and end. But every tension of opposites culminates in a release, out of which comes the third, In the third, the tension is resolved and the lost unity is restored. Carl Jung. A whole is that which has a beginning, middle, and end. All good things come in threes. The step to three is the decisive one, which introduces the infinite progression into the number sequence. So all of those are quotes. And let's see. Get my things out of the way so I can see everything. With three, a new element appears in the concept of numbers. I, you. The I is still in a state of juxtaposition toward the you, but what lies beyond them, the it is the third, the many, the universe. The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. Three is the formula of all creation. The one engenders the two engenders the three, and the three engenders all things. 1, 2, through. In the legends of King Arthur and the search for the Holy Grail, symbol of self-knowledge and self-perfection, Sir Percival was one of only 3 knights to actually find the Grail. His name, Percival, derives from Pierce the Valley, one who passes safely between looming mountains, piercing polarity, breaking through to transcend opposites, showing the way to infinite possibilities where there had only been two. Without realizing it, we pierce polarity whenever we count 1, 2, 3. Counting is a retelling of the original creation myth in the purest archetypal terms. Primitive tribes often count 1, 2, many. The Sumerians counted man, woman, many, but giving separate number names to quantities past 2 for the purpose of counting is so deceptively simple that we take the idea of a sequence for granted. Yet our ability to name numbers in an ongoing progression reflects a major leap of consciousness. It gives us the ability to transcend polar bounds and realize the unlimited. Since 1 and 2 were considered by ancient mathematical philosophers to be the parents of numbers, then their firstborn 3, the Greek Triad, is the first and eldest number. Its geometric expression, the equilateral triangle, is the initial shape to emerge through the portal of the Vesica Pisces, the first of the many. All right, 1 second. Let me just check one other thing, you guys. 1 moment. Okay. All right, I think I'm good. Speak aloud the word 3 in English or most any language past or present, and you'll hear its relation to words like through and threshold. And the prefix trans, which means across or penetrate, the leap to 3, as its linguistic root tells us, takes us over a threshold and through past polarized limits of the dyad. Wherever there are 3, as the 3 knights, the 3 musketeers, 3 wise men, or 3 wishes, there is throughness, rebirth, transformation, and success. All was divided into 3. Homer. As the first number to succeed its parents, as the first number to succeed its parents, 3 is in a unique position within the full sequence of 10. It is the only number of infinitely many to equal the sum of all terms below it. 3 equals 2 plus 1. It is also the only number whose sum with those below equals their product. 1 plus 2 plus 3 equals 1 times 2 times 3. Mathematically, these 3 become 1 and set the stage for the birth of other numbers. The unity of the circle manifests as a trinity: center, radius, and circumference. Examining and understanding this is a new word for me, so let's look it up. All right. Tripartism is an economic system of neo-corporatism based on a mixed economy. Okay, so I'm sure that there's more definitions for that. Examining and understanding tripartite patterns in geometry, myth, religion, and natural science will help us recall our inborn but sleeping memory and our deep understanding of the tripartite world and ourselves. 3 cheers, not 2 or 4. We can understand the triad by noticing where it occurs in our lives. It seems natural to divide any whole into 3 parts: a beginning, middle, and end, birth, life, and death. The 3 dimensions of space, length, width, height, and time, past, present, future. 3 daily meals corresponding within the sun's 3 stages: dawn, noon, and dusk. Phases of a chess game: beginning, middle, end game, computer jargon, input, output, throughput. Excuse me, you guys. Have an incoming, have something incoming. All right. So if you have a thought, an idea, please feel free to share. If you're watching live, please do greet. Let me know in the chat that you're here. Okay. Let me just check everything. All right. All right. I think everything is good, so we can continue where we left off. Okay. Let's see. All right, so we'll start right here at 3 cheers. So we'll go back a bit. We can understand the triad by noticing where it occurs in our lives. It seems natural to divide any whole into 3 parts: the beginning, middle, and end, birth, life, and death, the 3 dimensions of space, length, width, and height, and time, past, present, and future. 3 daily meals corresponding with the sun's 3 stages, phases of a chess game, computer jargon, input, output, throughput, cycle of a traffic light, green, go, yellow, caution, red, stop, and confrontation in the animal and human realms, flee, fight, or fortify. The triple goddess religions of ancient agricultural settlements identified the moon's 3 phases: waxing, full, waning, with the planting cycle, plant harvest, dormant, as well as with the goddess herself, virgin, mother, crone. These, this, that, and the other, are just some of the ways in which we frame and express what we feel to be true about the inherent tripartite wholeness of the universe. Subdividing each phase into 3 parts continues the process. People structure beginnings with "on the count of 3, ready, set, go, and ready, steady, go." Cheer their ongoing with "hip, hip, hooray," or hurrah, which derived from hoorah, the Cossack battle cry signifying paradise. We also end events in 3s, as in going once, going twice, sold. In baseball's 3 strikes, you're out, a game played in the first, second, and third world countries. We say something is as easy as 1, 2, 3, but try saying easy as 1, 2, and easy as 1, 2, 3, 4. Likewise, we say our ABCs, not our ABs or ABCDs. Well, sometimes I actually have heard people say ABCDs, but I get the point. 1, 2, 4, or any other number of steps don't feel right, do they? When epitomizing a whole process, fewer than 3 feel incomplete, and more than 3 seem superfluous. These values aren't culturally taught, but emerged from deep inside us according to our sensitivity to the archetypes within. 3 announces wholeness and completion through an embracing synthesis. We feel its correctness and express it through our words and images. I agree. All right, so we've got an image here of icons and logos. The triangle is a visually arresting shape and powerful symbol, calling for us to be alert. Variations on the triangle have a captivating psychological effect on us that imply a message of wholeness, strength, stability, and process in commerce, science, and religion. 3 also indicates plurality and supremacy. Plural, plurality and supremacy. Drawing 3 vertical lines and repeating a character thrice were the methods used to indicate many and maximum in Chinese. In ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs, thrice great, Dehuti, later Hermes, the Egyptians wrote thrice dark to indicate the highest degree of darkness, thrice hidden to indicate the unknowable. We cannot help but use 3 terms to indicate superlatives like good, better, best, fine, finer, finest, honored by the 3 grades of Olympic medals: bronze, silver, and gold. All right, so in this image here, we have the alchemical androgen, literally man, woman in Greek, symbolizes transcendence by the union of opposites within us. All right, the superstition about not walking under a ladder derives from a caveat from ancient Egypt. Don't break a triangle. That is, don't disturb a complete event. Some say that whatever you do comes back to you 3 times, and 3rd time lucky. Others say 3 on a match is unlucky. Whatever the value, good or bad, it's 3 that we speak of. Religious rituals calling for repeating a phrase 3 times, 3 prayers, or chanting 3 times, like superstitiously spitting 3 times, are intended to make an event happen, to make it whole, and bring it to manifestation and completion. 3ness as throughness overwhelmingly recurs in religion, myth, superstition, fairy tales, mysticism, magic, folk, sayings, proverbs, and fables, the time-honored expressions that cross cultures. We can discover more of the message of 3ness by making a list from our own experience. In childhood, we learn of Goldilocks and the 3 bears. Too hot, too cold, just right. 3 blind mice, 3 little kittens, 3 little pigs. In fairy tales and myths, we find 3 wishes, chants, attempts, doors, children, animals, hands, eyes, suitors, wise and weird men and women, hermits, kings, feathers, seeds, sons, brothers, princes, daughters, sisters, princesses, dreams, 3-headed dogs, dragons, and other trimorphs. The goddess trinity, the 3 fates, who spin, measure, and cut the thread of each life, 3 graces, furies, and charities. We read tales of 3 gifts, days, jewels, rings, goblets, arrows, swords, keys, gates, paths, songs, magic words, rivers, judges, challenges, and tasks. Tridents and triple thunderbolts allude to the greatness of those they accompany. The symbol of the Greek god Apollo was the tripod, or 3-legged stool, upon which the respected oracle of Delphi sat and prophesied. Excuse me. The Greek goddess Harmonia, literally fitting together, was born of parents Aphrodite and Ares, love and war. The triple goddess Hecate presided over crossroads in the form of a crone with 3 bodies and 3 heads. The letters of her name have values that add up to 334, a permissible single unit from 333. emphasizing her threefold nature. Consistent themes in these stories emerge quickly. Opposites are balanced by a third, mediating element that reconciles a conflict, healing the split of polarity and transforming separate parts into a complete, successful whole. A goal is actualized after two failures. Obstacles are overcome on the third trial. The poles of hero and enemy are transformed by the role of a third person, a helper. The helper. Trip Triptychs. Okay, let's see if we can get a pronunciation for this. Triptych. Oh, triptych. A triptych is a picture or relief carrying on three panels, typically hinged together side by side and used as an altarpiece. Okay. So it's a picture. Okay. Triptych or three-part paintings display the three scenes or stages of such events. One whose intelligence has attained to unity casts away from him both sin and virtue. Bhagavad Gita. The high occurrence of ternary rhythms from wishes granted to divine trinities. It's the high occurrence of ternary rhythms from wishes granted to divine trinities is more than coincidence. Again, a number expresses irresistible archetypal principles from deep within us. We respond to symbols, to the archetypes outside us, to the extent that we're sensitive to their principles buried within our deeper nature. The birth of the triangle. If you're ever responsible for constructing a universe or part of one, you'll surely need to know how to construct a triangle, a calling card of the triad. The triangle is the first shape a geometer brings through the opening of the Vesica Pisces. In constructing a triangle, we witness the birth of a shape from an unspeakable archetypal level into configuration. Every triangle we construct is not merely a copy of another person's triangle, but is an approximation of an ideal principle. All the important points needed to construct a triangle are already apparent in the Vesica Pisces. It only remains for us to connect them. The triad has a special beauty and fairness beyond all numbers, primarily because it is the very first to make actual the potentialities of the monad. To make the triad's principles visible, begin, of course, with a point. From that, create a Vesica Pisces. Connect the circle's centers with each other and with the point above where the circles cross. Now, welcome the firstborn of the primeval parents, archetypal opposites in the form of the triangle. It is the first area enclosed by straight lines, the birth of surface and structure. The emergent triangle remembers its source in the monad by having equal sides and equal angles. Hence, it's referred to as an equilateral or equal angular triangle. All right. And then we have this image here. Even the impossible requires a trinity. Three planes drawn at right angles to each other are the minimum required to produce figures like this tribar. The first such design unable to be built in three dimensions. A triangle is the most astringent shape. In contrast with the circle, which encloses the greatest area within the smallest perimeter, the triangle has the opposite property. It encloses the smallest area for the greatest perimeter. A triangular slice of pizza actually offers fewer toppings than would a round slice with the same perimeter. Recall the experiment in chapter 1 with the loop of string on the checkered surface. This time verify that a triangle covers fewer squares and a smaller area than any other shape made with the same loop. The triad divides the triangle, its emblem, into threes. In all the centuries, geometers have still discovered only three types of triangle: equilateral, in which all three sides and angles are equal; isosceles, in which two sides are equal, but the third is different; and scalene, in which no sides or angles are equal. Likewise, all the world's geometry finds only three types of angle: acute, which means less than 90 degrees, a right angle, which is exactly 90 degrees, and obtuse, which is greater than 90 degrees. A triangle is a statement about relationship and balance. As the centers of the two circles repel and tug at each other, a reconciling third point occurs naturally above the place where the circles cross and agree. Thus, the ancient mathematical philosophers referred to the triad as prudence and wisdom, piety, friendship, peace, harmony, unanimity, yeah, and marriage. We see this balanced path between extremes and periodic phenomena such as a swinging pendulum and a heartbeat. The birth is not yet complete. We can bring more of the triangle through the Vesica Pisces by extending the lines from the crossing point down through the centers until they reach the opposite sides of the circles. Connect those points with a horizontal line to complete the large triangle. Notice how this line passes precisely through the point where the circles cross below. Connect that point to each circle's center to fill the large triangle with 4 equilateral triangles. Ancient philosophers were struck by the profound harmony of the viscous space, which generates triangles by its natural points. The mathematical relationships between the sides of a triangle and the Vesica Pisces, which gives birth to it, can be made more comprehensible by making them audible. Simply do the construction on a wooden board. Then hammer nails halfway in at the points that make the triangle and at the circle's centers. Tie a single guitar, string, or piano wire to one nail and wrap the remainder around each of the nails. Tie the end tightly to the last nail. Pluck the string between each pair of nails to hear a tone. Equal lengths should produce equal tones. Pluck the length of the triangle's height and distance between the circle centers in sequence, or simultaneously, to hear the significance of the mathematician's phrase, the square root of 3 to 1. The seed ratio of the equilateral triangle. The arch of experience. Design is but another name for natural law. When designing a universe, you'll need triangles to create self-supporting structures. The triangle is in fact the definition of structure, since it is the only polygon structurally rigid by virtue of its geometry alone. It is synergistic in that its stability and superior strength are unpredicted by any of its parts, which by themselves do not have these properties. A close look at the fundamental structures of the world shows they're braced by triangles. Surface is composed of triangles. Plato. Oh, okay. All right, so this image shows how an arch diverts weight. Oh, our pelvis is the keystone supporting our body. Wow, look at that. Our pelvis is a keystone supporting our body. Triple structured architecture, including arches, is fundamental to natural and human design. Unlike any other shape, the three sides of a triangle resolve opposite tensions onto one solid, stable whole needing no support from without. A triangle is self-sufficient. In an arch, the third element, the point atop the triangle where the circles cross, is the keystone that diverts weight downward around its opposite sides into the earth. In a similar way, our pelvis is a keystone atop the triangle formed by our legs. To feel its strength, stand with your legs slightly apart and notice your torso balanced at the pelvic keystone. Architects and structural engineers employ the principle in the omnipresent A-frame truss. Carpenters know to stabilize a structure by bracing it with triangles. We see the same principle in the curve of insect shells, dams, tunnels, bridges, monuments like the Eiffel Tower. Triangles bestow strength, balance, and efficiency of space, energy, and materials. Fold a paper into an accordion shape and see how triangles support the weight of an object. The more triangles, the more weight it will support. An arch never sleeps. Ancient Hindu aphorism. So I think it's interesting here that we get our inspiration to create from nature. And I think this picture here of the pelvis is just amazing. Look what nature has birthed. I think that's amazing. And what better model to use than nature itself? All right, triangular structure gives the rose's thorn and shark's tooth their bite, and the wedge and axe their splitting power. Glass blowers have long known that making an arched indentation at the base of a wine bottle strengthens the whole container while also collecting sediment. I always wondered why wine bottles had that underneath. All right, we incorporate triangles into our creations for reasons of superior structure, strength, efficiency, balance, visual appeal, and symbolism. Discover the tripartite pattern in natural forms. Life forms in general have a three-part structure. From the body parts of an insect, so named because it's in sections, to the human body's head, torso, legs, with their own subsequent tripartite subdivisions and the three layers of heart muscle, all express the same principle. The geometry of fruits and vegetables will be tripartite when they begin as three-petaled flowers. Observe before you eat them. An arch is two weaknesses which together make a strength. Leonardo da Vinci. If you're going to construct a universe, you should also know how to dissolve it. This is done by learning how to create cracks properly. When we look at cracks in a sidewalk, we're actually seeing microscopic lines of force magnified millions of times. In nature's view, concrete and rocks, drying mud, and coffee grounds left in the filter are elastic materials that crack relatively suddenly over moments, hours, days, and months along three-way 120-degree joints because this is the way their co-equal molecular bonds tear apart rapidly. Like an A-frame in reverse. If you have more time, years, decades, or centuries, you'll see materials like old paint and porcelain crack more slowly, resulting in an alternative four-cornered pattern. See Chapter 4. Practice reading the different crack patterns by noticing them in familiar places. Wow. Force without wisdom falls of its own weight. Horace. So look at this sidewalk crack here. That's amazing. It's in threes. That is just amazing. Okay, let's see. Many fruits and vegetables display three-corner structures. A triangle can be geometrically decomposed or subdivided into smaller triangles that diminish by the same root 3 relationship. Follow the instructions below and decompose a triangle. Then superimpose this geometry onto the illustrations of the flowers, fruit, microlife, and insects on the next page to reveal their internal tripartite design structure. Within each Vesica Pisces, a large triangle has been constructed. Decompose it to see each life form's design. Some have been done to show you how. Every triangle can be subdivided into 4 smaller triangles. For example, further subdividing the upper triangle of the fly diagram will show you how its head is formed. Do this construction on the images of other tripartite natural objects you encounter. Oh, wow. So this would have been fun to do. Okay, construct a Vesica Pisces and a large triangle within it. Subdivide the triangle into smaller triangles. Draw 3 lines connecting each of the triangle's corners with the midpoint of their opposite sides. The points already exist. The lines meet at 120 degrees. All right, so here is where the Vesica Pisces exists, and then the large triangle within it, and then subdivided that triangle. And then here is where they connect the corners of each of the triangles with the midpoint of their opposite sides. So, okay, so here's a corner of a triangle. All right. Well, actually, this is the corner of one of the subdivided triangles, but it's the midpoint of this side here. And then that's connected to this corner. So the midpoint of the right side of the large triangle is connected to this corner, right? So those are 2 lines there. And then we have this line in the middle. And it says that those points, it says draw 3 lines, middle, and the points already exist, right? And the lines meet at 120 degrees. So right here in the middle. All right, so those 3 lines cross, okay, the innermost triangle at points that can be connected to make a smaller but inverted triangle. All right, so that's where we see here. Actually, I can use my pen so we can actually see this a lot clearer. So here, this is the inverted triangle that he's talking about right there. All right, so those 3 lines cross the innermost triangle at points that can be connected to make a smaller but inverted triangle. Repeat the process connecting each new set of 3 points where the lines cross each smaller triangle to draw the next triangle. Continue constructing smaller triangles as your sharpened pencil allows. Also, extend the sides of the inner triangles to see how triangular structure perpetuates itself inwardly. So then they repeat the process and we get another triangle here. So now we have an inverted inside the inverted, and you see it faces up. And then this process can continue to repeat itself, and there's another one. So that's interesting. Okay, so let's see where he's going with this. All right. There, 3 is an infolding of the 1 to a condition where it can be known. Huh. Unity becomes recognizable. All right, so then we've got a butterfly. Oh, okay. So he superimposed different images from nature where we can see these inverted triangles, how they are reflected in objects throughout nature. So here we have a butterfly, a flower, cucumber slice, and that looks like cantaloupe at the bottom. Oh, it's honeydew. A green pepper, a fly. 3 remembers the 1. The geometry of knots with their over-under crossing pattern is of great interest to modern mathematicians. The simplest possible continuous line knot, the trifoil knot, crosses itself in 3 places. No knot can have fewer than 3 crossings, the minimum required to complete a whole. The word trinity, in fact, derives from triunity, or 3 is 1. The mystery of 3 becomes 1 can be studied through the sign known as Borromean rings. All right, so let's look up this trend. Let's see if I can get the pronunciation correct. Oh, they don't tell me. Borromean rings. Let's try this one. Yeah, we're just going to assume I'm saying it right. I've definitely seen this symbol before, even though I didn't know what it was called. All right. So this is, oh, no, this is the trifoil knot. The mystery of 3 becomes 1 can be studied through the sign known as the Borromean rings, named for its appearance on the crest of the Borromeo family of the Italian Renaissance. It provides an interesting metaphor illustrating the essence of the triad. At first glance, the sign seems to consist of 3 interlocked rings. Yet, on close inspection, we see that no 2 rings actually interlock. The white goes over the gray goes over the black, and the black goes over the white. Alone or in pairs, they're separate. Each maintains its distinct identity, but when all 3 come together, they lock as one. Like a trifoil knot, a self-supporting whole beyond what the parts could do alone or in pairs. It takes all 3 interlocking simultaneously to become unified. Cut any one ring and they'll come apart. A trifold cord is not quickly broken. The Bible. Construct a set of Borromean rings. You'll need paper, cardboard, or index cards, compass, pencil. All right, so let's see what we have here. We have a braided hair weaves a 3-in-1 hole. The triad's retrograde connection to unity recurs in the braiding of hair. Ordinary experience shows that 2 stresses twirled around each other won't hold together, right? Two strand twists versus braids. Us ladies, we can understand this. You have to put something at the bottom of, well, depending on the type of hair you have. It's definitely hard to keep a two-strand twist in compared to a braid. All right, so shows that 2 stresses twirled around each other won't hold together, but will soon unwind unless they're tied at the bottom. That is, the dyad's principles will not create Okay, you guys, we got a quote right here. So I love this example. So think about what we learned from the dyad, the two. That is, the dyad's principles will not create an enduring whole, but merely opposites without resolution, an unending dance of conflict, like lawyers without a judge, but introduce a third strand of hair and alternate the three strands to weave a braid, an ongoing trefoil knot, a self-reinforcing stable unity. A braid's three separate tresses lock as a single new whole, like borromine rings needing no outside tie, self-sufficient and stable from within. A bow is only for decorations. Wow. I thought this was interesting back earlier when he was describing the triad and marriage was one of the words. And I was like, huh, because maybe, at first thought, you would think, here it is right here. You would think marriage would be associated with a dyad, but it's not. So I'm curious what the third element is for marriage. But let's go back. This is a clue to the archetype of the triad. A properly chosen third factor induces a relationship between opposites that unifies them and brings them to a new level. Threeness resolves the dyad into wholeness and unity back through to their source. An all-pervading monad, in the all-pervading monad. Okay. The embroidered cosmos is braided into existence. In the Native American languages of the Nez Perce and Shahapshan, the number three is known as the center of the one. The triad pervades our lives. The principle of the triad, as seen in the braid, that a minimum of three elements is required to weave into a whole, teaches us how to reconcile conflict. Ooh, snap. Okay, what? Maybe this is why these pairs aren't working, is because there's a third element that we're not including. No enduring resolution of any kind is possible without three aspects, two opposites, and a neutral, binding, balancing, arbitrating, transforming presence. Knowing how to choose the third factor means the difference between a conflict's resolution and its perpetuation. The third element, if properly chosen, pierces the valley and achieves a previously unknown level of experience, one of balance and completion. For example, if I can't decide whether to go out or remain indoors, I might consider another factor to induce a decision. The weather, my friends, responsibilities or needs. Oh, I love this. I gotta highlight that too. Similarly, we act as relative opposites to some people and have an arbitrating influence between others. Oh, if our personal and professional relationships could be visualized graphically, they might appear as a Persian carpet woven of braids within braids. Oh. We can also use an understanding of the triad to avoid the lure of the dual throng of polarized language. Yes. Since the words and grammar with which we think help to shape what we perceive, seeing the world in terms of black and white opposites and either or situations detours us to one side of a valley or another. But the triad invites unlimited perspectives and possibilities. Infinite shades of gray between the extremes of yes and no, each valid in different situations. We're constantly exposed to threeness. Okay, wait, I want to pause right here because this is a lot. This is a lot right here. The principle of the triad is summed up in a simple hanging balance. Two opposites are reconciled by the presence of an independent third aspect above them both. This is why scales symbolize justice by trial. Wow. Y'all see that? Trial. See the try in trial? This is amazing. I think this makes such a huge difference if we were taught these sorts of things, because I can see in my own thinking where I have been limited to just the dyad perspective, you know, in friendships and relationships, and even in like the decision making example that was given. It's either this or that. But when we're aware, when our consciousness is aware of the archetype of the triad, then we can bring in a third element in whatever way we need to find solutions. But even simply in relationships or marriages, I see what that third element is. In some marriages, it's God, it's the religious aspect that balances it out. But when you don't have, it may not have to be God according to your belief system, but when you don't have any sort of third neutral element, then that two-strand twist can unravel. It's not a braid, it's not a triad. So this is I didn't expect to come across this. So that's why I really like this book. It always opens your mind to things you just never would have even considered. All right, we're almost done with this chapter, so let's keep going. We're constantly exposed to threeness. Every whole event is inherently comprised of a trinity of two opposites and an outside third element that brings about a new whole. Physicists call this trinity an action, reaction, and resultant. Philosophers call it a thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. The three elements together form a greater new thesis, which in turn induces its opposite and is ready for a greater synthesis. In becoming whole, the triad, threeness, remembers unity and expresses its yearning to return to the state of the monad. The following examples each comprise a triune whole. A borromine knot or triple braid. Use them to learn to recognize the three components in any whole event. Begin by distinguishing the two opposites, and then note the catalyst or binding element that causes the new relationship to arise. All right. So let's look at a few here. We have seller and buyer. Oh, this gets bigger. And then the binding element is money. The new whole, commerce, man, woman, binding element, love, new whole. New whole is a home. Oh, water and flour. Fire is binding and you get bread. Proton, electron, neutron, you get an atom. Wow. Projector, screen. Film is what binds the screen to the projector and you get a movie. Oh, this is so interesting. I love it. Now let's see, okay. All right. Helium, the second atom to manifest. The first element composed of three different charges. Tripartite architecture braids the cosmic tapestry. Albert Einstein's famous equation, E equals mc squared, describes the whole cosmos as Borromean rings of three distinct but unified aspects of energy, mass, and light. Modern mathematical physicists describe mass, commonly called matter, as atomic whirlpools. After the emergence through the polar portal of manifestation, all subsequent atoms beyond hydrogen are composed of three parts, like spinning Borromean rings of positive protons and negative electrons balanced by neutral neutrons. Atoms configure in patterns along lines of force whose surface features we smooth out and simply call things. Hmm. Color is also based on threes. Direct light emanates from an illuminating source like the sun, a star, or television set. Pure whole white sunlight is itself a threefold weave of primary colors, red, green, blue, violet. Light's primary colors are additive because their combinations braid together to recompose whole white light. Verify this by shining three flashlights, each with a different primary colored filter at one spot on a wall to produce white. Look closely at a colored TV screen with a magnifying glass and you'll see the three primary color cells whose light blends in our eye to form the colors on the tube surface. I remember, like when we were young, and we had those big TVs on the floor. And I used to sit so close to the TV, first of all, because I'm nearsighted. I couldn't see. And this is before I had glasses. I would be so close to this TV. I could see if you get close enough, you can see that there's a big white light, but then on the edge, you can see the red, the yellow, and the blue behind on the edge of every little, I don't know, pixel. I don't know if it was pixel back then, but I remember seeing that. All right. Pigment colors. I need to adjust this. Excuse me. All right. Pigment colors such as those in paint, ink, pencil, crayons, and chalk occur by reflected light. Their three primaries, red, yellow, and blue, are called subtractive colors because they remain after direct light. Colors are absorbed into or subtracted from the surface. Just as direct light adds toward white, pigment colors subtract toward black, the absence of color. The reflected colors of the objects around us show us exactly what the actual color isn't because its true colors were absorbed. What reflects to us is what remains. The ink on this page is black because all light is absorbed into it or subtracted, and what remains is no color at all. Okay, so that's interesting. And I think that I am going to highlight this entire thing because that looks like something that needs to be studied. All right. The principle of the triple weave governing colorful light vibrations occurs also in sound and music. It takes combinations of only three primary notes to combine in four secondary ways to produce the natural 7-note musical scale of a vibrating string or column of air. The triple weave is the basic knot of this embroidered universe at each level: matter, energy, and light. The fact that human body structure is three-part should be no surprise, since the body begins life as a microscopic three-part structure. At 3 weeks, the human embryo has become a 60-cell enfolded sphere called a blastula. that enfolds and diversifies into three distinct layers to become the different but intertwined systems of our body. Oh. We may think of our skeleton as our body's solid, unchanging core of bone. It shouldn't change much, should it? But like other living cells, it embodies a dynamic three-phase cycle of transformation, emergence, development, and dissolution, or simply birth, growth, and decay. Thus, there are three types of bone cell. The osteoblast creates new bone and repairs old ones by extracting calcium from the blood and laying down a bone matrix. Osteocytes maintain and repair the bone's substance and strength, and osteoclasts dissolve and reassimilate old bone materials by dissolving bone matrix into the blood. Osteoblasts reabsorb it to make new cells, and the cycle continues. The three types of bone cell correspond within the three Hindu deities, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, perpetually creating, maintaining, and destroying. Wow. The ancient trinity of gods of the Hindu religion, called Trimurti, Sanskrit for one whole having three forms, mythically personifies the functions of the threefold bone cycle. Brahma, the creator, Vishnu, the preserver, and Shiva, the destroyer. Myth sometimes cannot help but be science in disguise. Wow. I assure you, I had rather excel others in the knowledge of what is excellent than in the extent of my power and domain. Alexander the Great. The same principle of tripartite unity was consciously intended in the creation of the government of the United States. When its founders were deciding how to construct a stable yet dynamic and enduring system, they looked to the background as they looked to their background as Freemasons. Esoteric Freemasonry of the 18th century used archetypal symbolism to convey ancient teachings of self-knowledge and inner development passed down from Egyptian times through a claim that included Peter Gower, a thinly disguised name for Pythagoras and the Gothic cathedral builders. Wow. All right, so let's highlight this for sure. In designing the government, the founders devised a democratic system of checks and balances among three separate but interlocked Borromene branches: the executive branch or presidency is intended to clash with its eternal opposite, the legislative branch of Congress. Their conflict is supposed to be balanced by an ideally neutral judicial branch, the Supreme Court, like the neutron of the atom, which has no bias charge but allows the protons and electrons to interact creatively as a whole atom. The three-part federal braid recurs in state and local governments, each a smaller braid woven within the tripartite whole. Nature teaches, technology builds, and we know deep within us that three can become one. We accept this concept without thinking when we sit on a three-legged stool. What two legs cannot have done, a third permits. Three brings a process to completion, but this achievement is not necessarily static. It can set into motion a triangular cycle, an ongoing rhythm of birth, growth, and dissolution, a three-phase process which with many phases in which all change must partake. Whether an arch transmits weight into the earth or bone cells change along a cycle, and even in the greatest cosmic transformations of light, energy, and mass, the weave is threefold. triune self. The triangle is the world's preeminent symbol of divinity. As a symbol of holy trinities, it reaches into nearly every religious tradition. In prayer, our hands spontaneously form a three-sided 120-degree corner. The urge of the triad is very powerful because it is rooted in our own triune nature, which is modeled on the world's. Long before Einstein phrased E equals mc squared, ancient geometers represented the trinity of light, energy, and mass by their three tools: the compass, with its unsleeping eye or sun above, and its legs as rays of wisdom and beauty shining into our lives; the straight edge that directs energy patterns of tension and movement; and the pencil and paper that make the patterns visible. Wow. So the three tools, the compass, the straight edge, and the pencil and paper. These three tools of light, energy, and mass. So the tools of light, energy, and mass. By which the divine geometer constructs the cosmos, by which the symbolic geometer approximates archetypal patterns, are also mirrored in us. What scientists call light, energy, and mass are the traditional spirit, soul, and body, described by Plutarch as nous, divine intellect, psyche, soul, and soma, body. Wow, this is amazing. To the Hindus, the principles within light, energy, and mass are the three gunas, qualities of purity, activity, and inertia that blend in different proportions in all processes and events outside and within us. Our spirit may be thought of as direct light, the wisdom and beauty of our deeper self, whose knowing is reflected on the waters of our psyche as our ability to think. What is deeper within us as delight is reflected as emotion. What is deepest within us as the most mysterious will to be manifest as our most explicit structure, the body with which we act. Wow. So I really want to highlight this entire section because that was really deep and amazing. And I feel like I want to reflect on that a lot. But I like how we have these three tools: the compass, the straight edge, and the pencil and the paper, that are our tools for light, energy, and mass, and how light, energy, and mass are the traditional spirit, soul, and body, which is the nous, the psyche, and the soma. So the divine intellect, the soul, and the body. Wow. So let's keep going because I'm sure he's going to continue to bring everything together. Freemasons continued this geometric archetypal symbolism in the new government. The United States is one of a few countries whose official seal has two sides, both on the dollar bill. The pyramid on the reverse, with this luminous triangular eye and trapezoidal base below, is an abstract model of ourselves. The eye represents our ever awake, deep, divine, spiritual self. The thick foundation below its outward expressions, our energetic psyche and denser body. Note the trapezoidal shape of the base is similar to a design often seen as an Egyptian sphinx or Pharaoh's nemesis name's headdress, whose slanted sides, like the base of the pyramid, imply an unseen triangle above it, representing our little suspected divine nature. Discover the triangular pattern in Egyptian jewelry. The ancient Egyptian priests, craftsmen used geometry extensively in their designs, both structurally and symbolically. Simultaneous representations of self and the world's structure were often incorporated into their art, crafts, and architecture to remind the viewer initiated in its system of symbols of their significance. The trapezoidal shape appears often in Egyptian jewelry. The pictorial of Senwosret II was designed as a trapezoid to fit perfectly at the bottom of an equilateral triangle constructed within a Vesica Pisces. In typical subtle Egyptian symbolism, what is not visible and beyond name or form is best represented by empty or negative space. In this case, the missing top above the trapezoid. Unseen divinity is implied by the empty triangular space above the visible form. Y'all, hold on. Okay, just had to check something real quick. So this is an image of Pharaoh Amenhotep, and I believe maybe that's who that is on the wall. Y'all can't see my wall. I'll have to show you in a minute. All right, this is the last page. A geometric construction superimposed upon the image will help us see how it was designed. Notice how the elements of the composition follow the prominent points, lines, and areas of the construction. The center of the whole triangle is precisely at the tail of the scarab, where the sun or spiritual principle is born. To an initiate, you can read its symbols. This pictorial is both a cosmological diagram and a map of ourself. Glyphs of life, time, and eternity are encompassed within the divine triangle. This jewelry, like much of Egyptian, Egyptian art, honors the divine space within each of us. Further explore the rich geometry of this pictorial by extending lines and connecting obvious points. The principles of the triad are omnipresent, taking us past the oscillations of polarity by synthesizing a new whole. The function of balance appears. Natural forms become stable structures, and sequentially ordered processes actualize. We'll see this trinity of structure, function, order, and space, power, time also expanded in the principles of numbers that are multiples of 3 in chapters 6 and 9. Religion, myth, folk tales, science, and art tenaciously reiterate the importance of trinities due to their deep roots within every part of us. They have powerful psychological effects on us because the tripartite universe connects with its archetypal root within us. Threeness shows us that we're not separate from the rest of the universe, but are literally braided into it. We are a complete whole living in a greater complete whole. You already knew all of this, but may have had to be reminded. Pure essence and pure matter, and the two joined unto one, were shot forth without flaw, like three bright arrows from a three-string bow. Dante. Now, having the ability to express the geometric constructions of the monad, dyad, and triad, we can represent the point, the line, and the surface. The principles of numbers next lead us onward to give our universe depth. Going, gone. End of chapter. Wow. So we made it to chapter 3 and we learned so much more about the triad, the number 3, but its relationship to the number 2 and how the significance of 2, but what 3 provides for us. I see 3 as almost like a binding, right? 2 shows us the opposites and the polarity that exists. And then 3 shows us, in a way, the binding of those, but it shows us what those 2 can give birth to, a third thing. And with that third thing becomes a whole in and of itself. So I'm never going to see the number 3 the same after reading this. And perhaps when I see those angel numbers 333, it's going to have a whole new meaning for me. You know, if I was to see triple threes, what would it, what would that, what would that bring to mind for me? And I think for each of us, it's going to be different. But I'm curious to know what stands out to you the most about the triad and the triangle, because that's its geometric reflection. Um, what stands out the most to you? What's the thing that will be the epitome of the triad or the 3 for you? I'm curious to know. Also, I um I think it will be cool. I'm thinking maybe by the end, once I get through all the chapters, maybe I'll actually set up my camera to do the constructions with the compass and the straight edge, um, and pencil and paper. It would be really cool to do that because I think once we use our hands to actually create those constructions and we see what each symbol creates, it's going to open up even more meaning for us. So we have um, the Vesica Pisces that makes 2, right? We have the whole, the circle, right? That's the monad. And then we put 2 of those together to form Vesica Pisces, makes the dyad. And then when we connect the midpoints or the center points of those circles, something like that, we make the triad, triangle within that, the Vesica Pisces. And then he showed us how to subdivide that triangle to make smaller triangles and then connect midpoints. And we created the inverted triangles, which is the undoing. And then if you can continue in that process, it undoes it and undoes it again. And we keep getting those smaller inverted triangles within other inverted triangles. So it's an ongoing process that never stops. And I think taking ourselves through the process of actually drawing that would open up a lot more. So we'll see. I feel like it'll be the end of the year when we actually get to that because I know how I am with how I read things and explore. Um, but I would love for you to move at your own pace and share your thoughts with me and your insights and your ideas and how you see into the different numbers and symbols and what it's changing for you as far as how you're seeing um, the world now. I would love to hear. So until next time, um, be well. And I suspect it won't be that long since I am out of school. Shouldn't be that long until I come back to read the next chapter. But there are only 10 chapters. So there's an epilogue and stuff like that, but that's not really a chapter. So there's only 10 chapters. You know, if I wanted to, I could finish this definitely by the end of the month, but I think that I might come on tomorrow and read Pentad. Um, because looks like it's going to be like an hour and a half to get through a chapter, and all of the chapters look to be about maybe 15 pages or so, 15 to 20 pages. Yeah, maybe 25. So yeah, somewhere around there. So we'll see. Maybe I'll be back on here tomorrow. Either way, um, each video will be added to the playlist. All right, until next time, be well.